Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Massage of 21st of May 2021. And apparently, it's the 21st day of the 21st year, and there's another 21 in there that I'm forgetting. But it's really great. Google it. I can't remember. Um, and today's topic is inside out with regard to mindfulness and abundance. So, welcome everyone. And we weren't going to start with a meditation today. I'm here with my co host, Dr. Tom Acklin, who is a regenerative neurologist and functional medicine doctor. And I like to describe him as the disruptor of dysbiosis. And we can discuss that another time.
Beautiful. Thank you. Love that.
And the reason we weren't starting with a meditation is because it's easy to be mindful when there is a meditation. It's easy to be mindful when you put in the space and it's controlled. So there are no other variables. But how about when you just have a break from your life and you can choose to be mindful? How easy is it for you then to give yourself permission and to just get into that state of being aware of self and observant and feeling out what you need. And as for feeling out what you need, Tom, I know you have something to say about see, feel, hear.
Oh, I have all kinds of things to say. Yeah, you're right. When we have a structure, and especially if it's a practiced structure, right? If we have a familiar sitting or a familiar time of day, and we know that we sit on a rock for 15 minutes out by the river or something like that, that's challenging enough, right? We sit in our supposedly familiar place, and almost always, if we're really honest with ourselves, after the meditation, no matter how blissful it is, and it does get better and better the longer you do it, the more you do it, the more practice you get. But almost always, and experienced meditators are brilliantly responsive to the interruption, right? And we were talking about the disruptor, being the disruptors, and we are usually our own best disruptor. Yeah. So it's challenging enough, even in a practiced sitting, to keep the mind quiet. It doesn't go that way. What we're asking ourselves to do ongoingly is to be better and better skilled at recognizing the interruption, recognizing the thing that is maybe a surprise, right? Maybe even a confronting surprise. Sometimes it's pleasant. Sometimes it's like, holy moly, where did that come from? And I love the idea that we sometimes don't have control over our thoughts. And there are a lot of practitioners who will suggest we also don't also have control over what happens around us, right? It's circumstance. And you language this brilliantly all the time, Hasina, that it's our mindset and it's our attention, right? And spiritual workers throughout time have always suggested it's in the chaos and it's in the thing that we think is disorganized where we get to choose our emotion and our attention and our placement. And so it's hard enough in a practice to do that and to maintain a focus. And then what you're suggesting today is that even in the chaos of the unexpected of life, we can become practiced at being able to contact, right? And the first order of business in recognizing that I have been confronted is perception. And I was in an immersive over the weekend, beautiful practice with very experienced practitioners, and their practice was called See, Feel, Hear. See, Hear, Feel. And it is a bit of a centering when you can just stop and say, instead of, wow, that lady was really rude to that guy crossing the street. She didn't stop her car crossing the street, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden the brain kicks in and we have ideas and we have mental images and we have morals and we have all kinds of stories kick in. And it's usually not very fun. What if in the moment we really could just focus on, hey, I'm seeing something. It's a challenge to let go of what that something is. I'm seeing something. And if you're watching this right now, you might choose to be a little confused as to whether you're seeing us talk or hearing us talk, right? And that in itself is sort of a playground. And you might even be feeling us talk. We're all familiar with the idea of hearing something that really resonates and we really like what's happening. And then all of a sudden we have a feeling, goosebumps or tingling or heartbeat increased or something like that. And so I think that's what we're going to play with today. Yeah. Is not so much the thing that we put a label on, but letting the label itself be what it is, sort of in the background, almost as an intruder, and being able to notice from the inside out, am I seeing this? Am I hearing this? Am I feeling this?
And that's the really interesting thing where you can actually say that mindfulness is two parts. Just give me a second. Yes, mindfulness is actually
Go
two
on the Zoom
parts where it is
for
actually
you.
just letting go. And apart from it, it's letting go of the labels. And
Who's it? Raisa?
when you let go of the labels,
Oh,
then it's actually how can we get closer to how we feel? How can we be in tune? So on the one hand, we're letting go, and the other hand, we're actually being in tune. Yeah, and that's the ultimate comparison that we've got to get that fine-tuned balance.
you said something brilliant before we went live, and you got a notice from Facebook as we were going live, and they said you are not the subject, and your phrase was, "I am the subject. How do I not have permission?"
Yes.
Yeah. And in the world of inside out, we always have a choice for that mechanism that you're suggesting, that you're describing. Where do we put our attention? That's a physical, perceptive sort of thing. There's one more level. The next level down is not only do we have what we think is control over what we perceive, right? That's the see, feel, hear practice, and many others. But we also have perfect control and permission to choose the feeling that goes along with that thing that we perceive, which is sometimes very practiced and sometimes reflexive, right? And so we don't think we have, especially with negative intrusions, we don't think we have a choice because it's such a practiced reflex, such a practiced neurocognitive, call it a gully, right? As water runs down a hill. It's a channel, and we all have those channels, all those things that we're neurocognitively addicted to.
Yeah. And right here, I would like to challenge all our listeners, whether you're listening to the repeat of this, and bear in mind what Tom was referring to when I said, I am the subject. How do I not have permission? It was referring to streaming on Facebook. For some reason, I could not stream this on Facebook. It said that the subject does not have permission. And of course, my ego kicked in. That being said, if you're listening to the replay of this, or even if you're listening live, just think about what can you let go of? What label can you let go of? What is supposed to be? What should be that you can take the should out and say, it just is what it is. Let's be with it as it is. And then the other part of the equation is what could you then take and say, I'm tuning into who I am right now. I am tuning into what I need. What do I need? Can I be present with that? Can I be mindful of that? And those two things. So think of something that you need to let go of label, and something that you can be present to. One of your needs that you just always ignore. So that's the whole equation. And here's an example. I think this is a great time to go into mindfulness with a very literal example, mindful eating. And Tom, we were discussing this, and you always advocate mindful eating. And I've seen you when you're eating an apple, you are consciously eating it and you're chewing even the core because it's nourishing you. I literally see you eating the whole apple from the first bite till there's nothing left in your hand. And I think that is really powerfully, consciously eating. And if we can be mindful about what we eat, like you may not have access to organic food or, really, really amazing good food. But what you can do is you do have access to the feelings that went along with this food, perhaps. And what actually happened when the food came to you? Perhaps you can visualize one of the workers picking the apples and they're laughing with another worker, or maybe you can visualize the farmer having this feeling of joy in their heart when they planted the seeds, or perhaps just when it was harvest time and maybe the farmer's children or children in the vicinity picking apples from this tree that you're also eating the apples from. So there are lots of ways to kind of visualize that goodness. And Tom, there's such a deeper understanding of mindful eating and food as medicine. And I know you can go into this now because you've taught me so much.
I'm always amused. You probably can't hear that, but my tummy is grumbling. And so often when we're talking, I feel my borborygmus, and I love just saying the word out loud, borborygmus, right? That's the grumbling that we all know of, the cholinergic tone, the forward motion, the motility of the gut, borborygmus. And maybe it's because just thinking about eating actually activates the whole system, right? Activates the parasympathetic tone. And I had an experience last week of eating somebody else's tuna fish on a sandwich. And I don't know how it was made, and I don't know who made it. And I don't eat a lot of tuna, but it didn't sit well with me. And I noticed pretty much through the day that it wasn't pleasing me. And it occurred to me later in the day, because it was apparently, quote, organic and et cetera, et cetera. But it occurred to me later in the day that it was possibly the person who made it and investing something in it that is intangible, right? Not just about the macronutrient, and it's not just about the cleanliness, although those are the things we think we can pay attention to. But there is a real power to how it was made, what the intentions were, what was the care, and did Mother Nature actually come through, right? And organic produce is in one flavor a very nice idea, but organic, as we've seen so often, can be, quote, properly tended to and properly elaborated and then handled very poorly, much the way we abuse animals and abuse chickens on a truck and like that. And then even after it reaches our table, somebody who might not have had the best of intentions in creating a meal, knowingly or unknowingly, doesn't have to be a conscious thing, but the flavor of the personality, there is a metaphysic that gets invested in all of life, right? All of organic interface. And the very best thing we do is to sacredly tend to our food and see what resonates and not. I can share a picture of what's in front of me if you'd like to, pursue it. So here is my office for the moment, and I almost always eat quite organic, very clean produce. Right. This was not an organic grapefruit, and it's probably not visible. And but it was very woody, and it's not because it was immature. It's because, and it was very hard to peel the peel. it was, think of scared food, right? What if it was a scared food and the woodiness, this doesn't look like a, maybe it does look like a juicy one here, but a nice juicy full tissue in a plant product is representative of beautiful soil, the holistic of a delivery of Mother Nature through the soil with all of the fingerprint of organic materials and support, and all of the bugs that come along with doing the work, right? There's a lot of life forms that go into helping this thing become what looks like a grapefruit. And just like we have the intentions of the preparer of the meal bring along, who knows, maybe there's something like the intentions of the bacteria and the intentions of the virus and the worms and everything else that was in the soil. And if they're ticked off because there's glyphosate in the soil and they're feeling oppressed, they might not be doing their job in quite a holistic way either. It's a fun thing to explore.
I love that. Okay, so here's a challenge for you. For those of us who cannot get organic stuff and we're eating the best, we're just doing the best that we do, how can we bring mindfulness into that? Because I have my practice that I actually started after watching one of your Zooms about like just visualize, some of the goodness in the food, some of the goodness in the intentions. Is there anything else that we can add to that after you telling us that, like, well, what are the intentions of the bacteria? Are they feeling oppressed? How can we be mindful in that situation? How can we get goodness from it and interact with our food in a constructive way?
That's a great question. It sounds like a big challenge. What if we all could declare what you declared? I am the subject. I have permission. I am the subject. I have permission. And even in a toxic environment, I'm not advocating that people go out to, the local barbecue roundup. But let's say you walk into one of these massive eatery where you're really supposed to, plop down your $20 and go all you can eat whole hog into stuff that's not really food. What if you really could approach that in a way that says, I do have permission. I am the subject. I, with all of my intentions, give myself permission and the food to interact in a way that best serves me. And who knows, even when we're all stressed, we always have, even if we're not consciously aware of it, we always have an inner desire to bring forth something that we think is important, right? Yeah. That's what fear mechanisms are. That's what hatred mechanisms are. That's what all of our judgmental mechanisms are. Deep inside somewhere, again, probably not conscious, when we're in a rage, we all have an intention to bring forth a message of clarity. What if we as consumer could actually give food that same agency and give it permission to bring itself forth, and we can, just like you as healer, help people find their inner sense of forgiveness and love and compassion in whatever it is that feels like the negative emotions. We could actually be that. That's a practice. And it's a see, feel, hear practice. It's me picking up a very woody grapefruit, saying, forgiving myself for my judgments of whoever it was that's responsible, right? All of my different conversations that are layered. I get to forgive myself for all of those conversations. Doesn't mean I forget them. It doesn't mean they're not important. It doesn't mean I'm not going to take action on them. It just means in the moment, as I'm taking a bite, can I let all that stuff go and intend this is actually going to bring me the very best nourishment?
Mm-hmm. So you get to be the change instead of just asking for the change, just part of that. And that is a mindful practice, choosing to be the change, choosing to be aware of the power of self. And
I love it. And now I can safely take a bite. Thank you.
That's what you enjoy with juicy grapefruit.
And you've just invested it with a new kind of vitality and juiciness.
I'm sending you good energy, good intention for this grapefruit.
I'm feeling it. It works.
So here's a question to everyone. What mind, body, spirit practices do you have? It could be in the realm of food, it could be in just connecting with being the change in some other way. It can be through watching your thoughts and being mindful of your thoughts and making sure they're constructive and they're moving you forward. So if anyone wants to answer in just 30 seconds, I know we don't have much time left. What mindfulness practice do you have?
Well, I want to remind you,
Mhm.
when I make tea for you and Shamima, you say to me that you make it exactly the same, but it doesn't taste as nice as when I make it. What do I say?
I can't
The
remember what you say. I know you say something.
secret ingredient
Uh,
is a mother's love. Only I can provide that. It's the ego.
but it does influence the tea, right?
Mhm.
Because if you were in a bad mood and you made the tea, I doubt that it would taste good really. So yes, it definitely influences the tea, and that's the whole thing. Like that's a mindfulness practice. Um, so here it is. If you're making tea for your children, then you could practice mindfulness by putting in the secret ingredient of a parent's love um, in that tea, or if you're making it for someone else, just put in love, and that that energy carries through. I like that. And there's so many different ways of doing this with mindfulness practices. Um, and then just to ask oneself, what is your default in mind, body, spirit practices? Like, what do you go to? What is your one go to? For instance, if you, what thoughts are you having? I used to have fear-based thoughts, and it was from my experiences. And lately, recently, every time I have a fear-based thought or um, a thought that doesn't serve me, I suddenly think to myself, wait a minute, is that thought serving you or moving forward, moving you forward? Do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And obviously, we all want to be happy. And I let go of it. It took me such a long time to get to that place, but it's possible. So that's my biggest mindfulness practice. And Tom, I know you have several. What's your biggest one?
Well, you just gave me a great idea. I love the idea. What if we could all be present to the idea that we're going to be happy? Almost everybody can get there, right? I'm going to be happy someday. And we have these mental processes that usually kick in and say, I'm going to be happy when such and such. My default personality is I can't do it right now. My default, when ideas of serenity, meditation, mindfulness, a deeper spiritual practice, I think many people can relate to the idea that we have a structure. And so my default is I can't right now, or something like that. I'll explore that. What if I could be with that and give myself permission and realize that's a really constrictive way of thinking in the first place, right? That's to be disrupted as well. It's to be seen, it's to be felt. When I feel that, even when I say it out loud, doesn't feel good. And I can offer myself the choice of being happy right here with the circumstance. And it isn't a, I'll be happy when, it is I am happy now. The mind might not believe, or I should say the brain might not believe that when we first say it, right? It does take some practice, just like any physical practice and just like any other habit that we're trying to institute. Maybe we could practice saying that I am happy. And even that might be a little bit farther down the conveyor belt from the perception. If you can't say I'm happy, which is layer 2 that we talked about, go to layer 1 and say, I do see, I do feel, I do hear. And in the place of seeing and feeling and hearing, truly, there is no such thing as happy or unhappy. There's not a mental construct yet. We can choose. Once we're practiced there at the first part of the conveyor belt, then we can go down and say, okay, maybe I don't quite believe myself, but I'm happy seeing this grapefruit. I'm happy seeing this this mug of tea, like that.
I love that. And that's very powerful, and it makes it more tangible for people that I can't get there. I don't feel I can get there, but I can get here. I can take the next step. But I know when I asked you what's your biggest mindfulness practice, and that's a big one, but when I observe you, the one that comes through to me is that you're in the flow. Like when something changes, and the only permanent thing is change, right? When something changes, you will say something that reflects, well, let's go with this. It's perfect as it is. And it's given me the calmness to be able to say, okay, yes, that's right. It doesn't have to be the way I expected. Let's go with this. And then it just unfolds like magical things unfold because you didn't expect that. And your intention is to create the best and highest good. And you're having that intention consciously. So why not just go with those intentions? And for me, that's the biggest thing that I've taken from you.
Thank you. I love that. Your distinction earlier of do I want to be happy or do I want to be right reminds me, in the wake of this description, we're almost never right. We're almost never right. And when we are, truthfully, it's yes, it's a success and we can check the box, but it's kind of boring, right? If life really went as we said, we would probably be quite robotic and not real interested. And it's the contrast that keeps us going, and it's the failures that keep us attached to that vital force of life that says, okay, now what? And in the now what, you have to be in the now before the now what shows up. And if we're in the should, like you distinguished before, if we're in should and this isn't right, then there is no now, and so there can't be a now what.
And that's a really good place to be able to say to listeners, Tom, you and I were talking about this earlier today about how we're going to take 30 days and just, I guess we could define it as being mindful, stepping into the flow of abundant thoughts, stepping into mind, body, spirit practices that serve us, and being able to do that every day for 30 days. And when I posted about this particular mind massage episode, then there was that picture that I posted that said there are 7 days in a week. Some day is not one of them. What can we do today in the now? We're not saying now what, in the now, to be able to just practice mindfulness. And then tomorrow, what can we do in the now to just practice mindfulness? And go like that each day for 30 days. And I'm challenging anyone who's listening, live or to the replay, that why not do that for yourself? And if you want to know about a system that could work, just if you're on Facebook, this will be posted in the Mind Massage Facebook group. Just post in the comments and just say, want to join the 30-day challenge, and we could all do that together. So just asking, are my mind, body, spirit practices serving me, or do I want to change them? And giving over the last word to you.
I'm looking forward to stepping into a 30-day exploration of your new book and doing the work that goes along with it. And I think that might be an invitation too, if people don't know about the book and they don't know about the unbecoming work. you could post that when we post this recording. And anybody who wants to begin with us, we, along with a couple of other friends, are going to begin on Monday morning with that probably 5 to 15 minute daily practice of exploration. Yeah. And sometimes it's with something in our hand and a piece of paper, and sometimes it's sitting there with a grapefruit. And it'll take different forms, I think, which is what mindfulness is all about in the navigating of life.
Yeah, it is.
So I want to thank you and Shamima again for that book and that body of work, and I'm looking forward to it starting Monday.
Well, Tom, thank you for your support, and I'm so looking forward to doing this together, the Unstressed, Unlimited, and Unbreakable book, the techniques there, the 30-day practice. And whoever wants to join us, yes, just let me know. Looking forward to hearing your comments, your questions, your suggestions, and join us next week on the Mind Massage at 1 p.m. Eastern or 7 p.m. South African time, Friday. And we look forward to the discussion, conversation, and practicing mindfulness together during the week. Okay.
And should we be so bold as to offer listeners that your mother is going to bring us all tea with love?
Yes, I think she can metaphorically bring everyone tea.
At least virtually, Rashida? Are you willing to do that? Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Have a great week, and we look forward to speaking with you throughout the week on the Mind Massage Facebook group. Search for us if you're not on there, and we'd love to hear from you. Okay.
Peaceful weekend.
Bye.